100.
No, it's not.
Yes.
Because now my car is lighter and I have oil to lubricate the drive.
I don't think we can say, no, it's not. I know it's my first time. Please, fill me in. I don't think you can say that.
In many ways, Jacob Wysocki's defining trait here is subtlety. I think there's evidence of him doing all of these things, but it's not as loud and in your face as other performers past. Maybe this is a sign of things getting better, even if just slowly but surely. At least in his dropout roles, his size barely comes up one way or another, and he's not even the only or considered the token big performer on the platform. I think I can confidently say the environment that Dropout fosters is much healthier in this regard than in Hollywood, but I'd like to hope that even if at a glacial pace, the world is inching in the right direction, even if we do still have a long way to go. But the fact that Jacob is only one of several people who gets to participate in this bout of escapism. Alex doesn't look like Kingskin. Izzy doesn't look like Jack Manhattan. Iffy doesn't... Okay, Iffy may not be the best example to make my point. My point being, tabletop games allow us to be anyone we want to be, the same way people talk about acting. The main difference is, at the end of the day, Hollywood only lets you play the people they want you to play, that they think you can play. When you're at the table, when you're in the dome, nobody can say you're not allowed to play a redneck super spy who bends reality to fulfill his Super Saiyan dreams.
Dang connects to Greg in a way that he hasn't before. It's like the adrenaline. This is the most high octane it's ever been. And he hears a whisper in his brain from Greg's going, "It's not all the power I have." And Andy goes Super Saiyan.
So you go from being the everyman to being perfectly blonde and covered in energy.
Yes. And I start shooting rains of energy from my palms, smattering around as much as I can, looking for a computer.
Unbelievable. You are...
But I have to... He charges up.
He charges...
Yeah. Eyes go blue, hair... sax man. And now I'm Super Saiyan until I stop.
Unbelievable.
So we've reached the time where I try to answer the other big question. Why this topic? Why this angle? Why Jacob Wysocki? Well, there's a few reasons. But to start, I feel like on a lot of levels, I relate to Jacob Wysocki. At least to the persona he shares with us. Well, I'm not the same size in real life as Jacob. I have a handful of people very close to me and dear to me that are. And like many other issues, I can say that while I always felt and knew that fat phobia was bad, it's different when it's personal. When you hear them tell their stories, see what they go through, and see how they're treated with your own eyes, it changes you. And I'd like to think for my case, that was for the better. On the same line of thinking, I also know what it feels like to use art and comedy as a way to process or cope with your struggles. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, an often misunderstood and maligned condition that has left me with my share of bullying, struggles, and what I'd kindly refer to as unique quirks of personality. One of my favorite major hobbies I have outside of making these silly videos is I write comic books. My very first comic was a self-aware horror series called Corpse Core, a world where every horror movie in the world is not only a real murder, but hidden cameras capture the entire affair and sell them back as blockbuster movies to the same crop of unsuspecting teenagers. If I was to give my usual convention pitch, usually I say something to the effect of, it's like if Kevin Smith directed Scream.
Shit, Sambo, it's that TV news shit, Connie fucking Chung. Hey, Connie, how's Maury? Dude, I think she likes me, man. See how she's looking at me?
One of the main hooks of the story is that it's told from the perspective of Jack, the killer of the series. You see him get hired into the company, getting his first big assignment, and even pick out a rather bizarre persona for himself. The Swing Time Slasher, an over-the-top, fast-talking showman with an orange and purple pinstriped zoot suit. A character that, I must admit, while I didn't know of Dropout at the time, really gives off a lot of Sam Reich energy.
And your host, me. I've been here the whole time.
His powers come from a magical mask. But the mask feeds off his own emotions. So as he suffers a mental breakdown, his anxiety is amplified tenfold. There's a powerful shot of this happening in the second issue. He stumbles to the floor, his body slowly shrinking, tripping over top of this zoot suit that he no longer fits in, swimming, trying to escape. The mask cracks around his face. He sits on the floor paralyzed in fear. His insecurities shouted from similar masks screaming at him in every direction. Every single one of those screams are real. Every statement is something someone has actually said to me, in one part of my life or another. So while I do have serious concerns and issues about the way that people get pigeonholed into laughing through their trauma, often with their persecutors as the audience, I know from experience how healing it can be to take back control of the narrative, even just a little bit. So what exactly is the Jacob Wysocki effect? The Jacob Wysocki effect is the way that Jacob's performances show a different path for those pigeonholed or stereotyped by the world at large. It's at one point nothing more than being yourself, but understanding that for certain people, that's significantly easier said than done. It's not letting anyone else define who you are, how you act, or what kind of role you can or cannot play. The Jacob Wysocki effect is, well, it's motherfucking Jacob Wysocki. And yeah, maybe I might be Don't examine it! No, fuck that, I am going to examine it. I have been examining it for the better part of an hour, because this stuff is important. And I am so thankful to Dropout, Jacob Wysocki, and all of the other people we've talked about in this video for being an inspiration to me at one time or another. And in the case of Jacob and Dropout, inspiring me to get back on YouTube, making videos like this one. I had all but given up on YouTube years ago. For these last few months, I've found success at a scale that, for someone like me, is nothing short of amazing. And I don't know how long this will last, or how many people will end up watching this whole thing. I don't know how this video will do, or if I'll make more of these, but as a wise and very funny man once said, hey, I'm just happy to be here. So I need to... Alright, give me a second here. I'll have things pulled up. Alright, we have a live stream confirmation. Alright. Well, nice to know that my wife is here on the chat setting the tone. Love you. I know some people are falling a bit behind in the video, aren't watching up to speed, so while we're getting set up here, I'm going to go ahead and, for your guys' benefit, I'm going to try to see if I can pull up the the behemoth that is the editing file of this son of a gun. But yeah, I'll give it a couple of minutes here. But if you're hanging out in the post stream, please, feel free to give a hello in the chat here. I would love to know your thoughts. This video was a beast. My goodness, I will talk about it more in a minute, but my goodness, all that went into making this video work. Love you too, babe. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. This video was a lot, but it also meant a lot to me. So, yeah, I'll say it again when more people are here. But, it means a lot that, right, here it is. Hold on. I can put this thing in the chat. I think that'll actually, one of those should take you guys straight to where I'm actually at here. But, yeah, why don't, while we're just chilling out here with the video, I'm gonna show some of this off here. There's a couple of key moments here and there that I really enjoyed. So I think if I have the order correctly, this setup is in order of who we had for each person. So it would have been Chris Farley, Lindsay Hollister, Jack Black, Danny DeVito. And I'll talk more. Hey, Luke, thanks for showing up. Appreciate having you here. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. Which I guess this slide is as good of a place to start. Because kind of this decision, this split in the video was definitely the biggest change. That was what I feel like is the defining aspect of this, was the defining excuse me, throat is bothering me a bit, was defining how I was going to do this. Where my unique angle of it was, because I was still going to do this video when I thought it was just going to be strictly about Jacob Wysocki, but I was always in the mindset of like, well, what's my hook? Like, what makes this unique for me? And A Stonky, hey, glad you could make it. Thank you very much. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. At any point, if either one of you guys or anyone who pops in, if you have any just broad questions about the video or anything like that, feel free to just drop them down there. Otherwise, I'm just probably going to ramble for a little while. And we'll just kind of lead this to like a solid end point. I know there's a lot of hype going into this. I would love, in general, to do more live streaming stuff. In fact, one thing I'd like to do for you guys in a little bit here is I want to give you guys a sneak preview of my upcoming video. Not a big project like this, one of the sketches. The sketch style videos that I do. But there is going to be one of them coming up here very soon. 1 second here. Just one moment. Okay, I hope she doesn't mind me telling this joke. This is really funny. Lily, Penny. Penny. I'm trying to get a cat on camera. I'm sure you guys won't mind. Penny. Penny. Come here. Essentially, my wife was concerned that she could hear me over her headphones. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm talking that loud. And it turns out it was an ad going in the background. So it wasn't actually me. Anyway, so what I was saying, how the Jacob Wysocki effect went from just a fun little fan video to this whole big thing. Basically, best way I could put it is it started at basically the one-to-one comparison is probably how I would put it. The idea that well, yeah, that's the question I'm asking, so it's good. Stonky, glad you brought it up. So when I started it, the first step was Chris Farley. I had previously read that article about Bob Odenkirk's response to Chris Farley, particularly with the Chippendale sketch. And I was always fascinated by that, because Chris Farley, it's always a thing in these videos where you feel like you never have enough time to include everything. And if I was to add an actually onto this video, it would be the fact to know that, in general, Chris Farley's struggles and his demons were a lot more complicated than his weight. That's obviously a big part of it, but that wasn't the only thing. But as far as looking at the different approaches of people, you know, looking at Chris as the example of somebody who kind of let the world take the reins on how he was portrayed, compared to Jacob Wysocki, who my main point was this idea that he was somebody who I felt gained control of what he was doing. I thought that made the best comparison, and it started with just those two, like where I would just do like a little multi-part thing, and it was just a comparison of the Chris Farley effect versus the Jacob Wysocki effect. Where it blossomed from there was this idea of, when I started thinking about different other people that apply, and thinking if they had just as much to contribute. If they had just as much to add to the conversation. And in that regard, Jack Black was the next one that came up. Where I felt like, in my head it was the thing of just like, am I going to finish this video, and is someone immediately going to say, well, what about that person? Like, why didn't you talk about that person? At least to a healthy extent, I tried to do that. So Jack Black became the next natural fit. And at that point, I'm like, well, rule of threes, I gotta add somebody. And Lindsay Hollister, bringing her up was always on my radar. And I debated it just because body issues in Hollywood and all that with women is such a... It adds another entire dimension onto that whole conversation that can be that much more difficult to handle or difficult to deal with. And I didn't know how much of that I wanted to try to tackle. Because it's that worry you have that, like, if you don't really tackle it, like, if you don't jump on it 100%, then you aren't, where you're missing something. To Stonky's point, the struggle of, quote, I need to talk about this person to articulate my point versus, oh shit, this video is longer than I anticipated. Yes. The Shallow Hal bit was longer. And, like, and like, part of that was because, okay, because I forgot this part. So originally, Lindsay Hollister was like a 3.5. The idea that she got brought into it because she seemed like a really good example for what the main point of Jack's part with Shallow Hal was at the time. This idea of trying to be part of the solution and having that ironically blow up in your face sometimes. Like it did with Shallow Hal. But in Lindsay's case, like, as horrific as you saw just the bits from Blubberella that I showed, I assure you, the movie itself is so much worse. And that doesn't take away from the fact that she fought like hell to make it not that way. And I don't blame her for how that movie turned out, but I have so much sorrow for her. I feel so bad for her with how that turned out. And then I realized it was just a bad editing decision, having it set up that way. So I instead moved Lindsay Hollister to her own section, kind of expanded it a little bit. The Danny DeVito was the one where I was like, if I could put squeeze one more in. And I thought it was worth it because, like I said, Danny DeVito kind of comes at this interesting crossroads of both fatness and of disability. I learned more about Fairbanks disease. Getting to hear him talk about his career and different aspects of it was really fascinating. And at that point, what I realized is oftentimes when it comes to these sort of things, some of your best ideas are the ones you come up with by accident. Things that you take credit for things that may not have been your idea in the first place. And one of those was, to a certain extent, that between the 4 stories, technically the 5 stories, with Jacob, I mean, you could debate 6 with me, but they got a little happier as we went on. Obviously, Chris Farley dealt in tragedy. Lindsay Hollister did have her successful moments in Hollywood. If you get a chance to see the movie Get Smart, her scene in that is really good. And she found success. Hey, Luke, thank you for stopping by. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And so, yeah, there's this escalation of it getting happier as it went on, or going all the way to, Lindsay Hollister did her best in Hollywood, and she found her happiness, but she found it somewhere else. Jack Black, he kind of carved his own way and made the system work for him. Danny DeVito made his own system The Danny DeVito effect is such a fascinating thing where there's not really much that compares to it. He's just Danny DeVito. And Always Sunny, I've never, outside of even discussions of fatness or disability or anything like that, I think that there's something to be said. I could do a whole video essay on just how Always Sunny is an unprecedented example of an actor trying to write and succeeding at writing their own story. I legitimately believe he will be playing that show till the day he dies. If all the money on that show disappeared tomorrow, he would fund the whole thing himself, just so he could do it. Stonky, I think an unspoken part of video essays like yours are their sheer amount of things you get to learn, even if you don't necessarily get to talk about them, that inform your final talking points. Well, thank you. I think that I wouldn't make this if I wasn't a big fan of video essays. And that's part of that is the ADD thing. I love educating people. I love being the one that gets to introduce people to things. And sure, I'm sure some of the things I introduced to people in this video weren't the most positive. If someone comes out of this video... First of all, if someone comes out of this video and thinks, hey, maybe I should watch Blubberella, don't. I claim no responsibility for anybody who decides to watch that walking hate crime of a movie because of me. But... You know, I talked about Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is one of my biggest influences. And one thing he said very early in his career is, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to make the kind of shit that only Kevin Smith would make. And I've stuck to that. And I try to be like, what can I do to make this video more than just Jacob Wysocki good and show a bunch of clips? What can I do to make this a project that only Ken Johnson could make? And I hope I pulled that off. I really hope I pulled that off. So, with that being said, as a fun little extra treat at the end here, I think this will be posted online to the main channel at the end. I think I'm going to try to put this on the main channel, so I think it'll mostly be Stonky who's here in the actual chat. We'll see more people popping up and watching the video later. But it's a work in progress, but I'd like to show you a preview of the upcoming new sketch that's going to be coming out, hopefully sometime next week. It'll be coming out, and I'm excited to bring it to life. It is... right now, the working title is just Batman Shenanigans, but it is just a sketch of the... making a sketch out of the all of the Batman's episode. I still have a ways to go as far as getting the exact look right of it. The music underneath is the song I Am the Night from Miracle of Sound. Also, for the main video, all of the background music, 90% of it is done by the Prime Thanatos. I think it's their Back in the 80s, one of their Back in the 80s playlists. Just played through, except for the intro to Chris Farley, which is the song Vampires by the Midnight, which is an amazing song. Mainly I just use that because SNL, I feel like their intro is defined by those like crazy saxophone solos, so I wanted to replicate that. But it's in rough shape, but here's what we have so far for the upcoming Batman Shenanigans episode.
Where's the Riddler?
Batman. And just shit. I want you to do me a favor. I have a snack on my utility belt. Please feed me. I'm just in now. I'll protect Gotham. I just need a little bit Elmer Gard. Way to get my blood sugar. I do know the answer, but let's just say the signal is up, and I'm gonna need at least half of the quadratic formula for it to go back to sleep.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
Commissioner Gordon, I saw the bright light in the sky. It's just too bright. Let's wrap this up. I gotta go to Queens. Deborah's making pasta.
The bat signal hangs low like a testicle in the sky.
Wow!
Please, Two-Face, you've got to listen to me.
Hey, how's it going? You guys fighting some crime? You want me to help? I'm really ripped. I used to be in the Funky Bunch.
Do you want me to dance or do you want me to fight crime? I can do both. Dang it, I did it again.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that's the
From a
it is rough. But you want to talk about cuts? This is the last thing I will. Definitely, I want to show off here. If we've got a couple of people hanging out here, hello. Okay. My wife is just coming by to let out the cat. We got the glitchy reality. Really appreciated the considered effort that went into the video essay. Beautiful work. Thank you very much. So speaking of work, so just out of comparison, so just for a quick little sketch, it's not done yet, but this is like, you could look at this and see this, like the approximate amount of like pieces and editing that go into like the 1 minute sketches. Like the sketch here, for instance, this one ends at about 1 minute 48. The Jacob Wysocki effect, I believe, is 53 minutes long. And if I just keep zooming out here, it's hard to get a real stream of exactly how many cuts, how much going on there is. And part of it is simplified because of simplified audio, because of some of the audio processing I did. But there's, yeah, approximately like 6 layers of audio, 9 video layers, all sorts of crazy stuff going on here, trying to finagle this whole thing together. It was an absolute labor of love that I am absolutely glad people are enjoying. If I can just cut to one section here. So real quickly, I know some people brought up the fact that I do comic books. I haven't included those in the description yet, but I'm going to do that in a minute here. So if you're interested in those, you can actually read my comic books for free through a Dropbox link in the video description underneath the YouTube video. But really quickly, to comment on those real quick. So this one you're seeing here, this is actually my latest one. I say latest, even though this was probably 5 years ago or so. Maybe not 5. It was a long time ago, at least 3 years ago or so. This is from a comic I made called The Trials of Beatrice. It is a dark fantasy femme fatale retelling of Dante's Inferno. In fact, this character here, the one who plays the prophet Virgil, is actually inspired by my beautiful wife. And it's, well, you know, for that reason and others, probably my favorite character I've ever made. Yeah, it is, I don't know if I mentioned this on this stream, but like I've been working on this thing since episode 6. This is probably somewhere between a 50 and 70 hour edit. I don't know. I wish I would have. I mean, I mean, part of me was like, oh, well, time lapse it, but like it really actually wouldn't be that interesting of a time lapse to watch because it doesn't really like look like anything when you're doing that. Oh, here we go. So this one. So for those of who knows of Dante's Inferno. So like this is, like in comparison here, this is the the bandit all hope ye who enter here, gateway to hell and all that. And then the main difference being is that Beatrice making these silly videos is the so it's like Beatrice is the one that usually is being quote unquote saved. Yeah, the live stream is system audio is a good 4 times louder than your. Okay, I can adjust that quick. I literally just turned the settings on and went. So, let me see. It's just find my right menu here. Okay, how's hope that is better. I don't try to turn my mic level up a few decibels here. Okay, let's try that. So those asking. Oh, good. Glad I got it working. So those that asked earlier, this is where the faces come from. There is a couple different ways in the comic that that explore the idea of ADHD. And this is one of them, is this particular frame where he kind of just goes on this instant crazed back and forth trying to think of all the possible ways things could go wrong. And the thing that made this hard for the video essay, though, obviously, is that these expressions weren't made for this purpose. And at some point, if I make more of these, I'm probably going to have to commission someone to do faces. Because I like this idea. For those guys who are familiar with them, the main idea for these faces came from a YouTuber named Movie Bob. Ran a picture on The Escape. It's called The Big Picture. Where for a long time he had a series of faces he did like this rather than doing webcams. And I personally like it because sometimes you don't have the option to get the best audio. You don't have the best options as far as where you're able to get your sources. Oh, I missed him leaving, but I'm just going to read the quick message here. Stonky dipped out. Your writing editing is super engaging, and I'm so keen to see wherever you go from here. Oh, that means so much. But I think so. We're gonna wrap up in a minute here. But this is the last thing I wanted to show off was where all these faces come from. The only thing that was hard using them is that they weren't built for the purpose of using it in these videos. So you've got like a sad, a happy, a perplexed, a deadpan, a disappointed, a little weirded out, very weirded out, excited, and then kind of this ambitious angry. I really wish I had an actual, like, angry face. That was the one of them I was missing. I really wanted. But, you know, these work in a pinch, and I'll probably use these again. I don't know in total how this video essay is going to go, but realistically, I think it's going to go well. At least moderately well. And the thing with it is that being that it's this much longer than my other content, its impact of people is magnified based on the number of people that engage with it, if they do choose to really engage with the video. So, if we get anywhere near my average number of people to actually watch all the way through this video, the impact that will have on my channel will be significantly bigger. So, with that, I want to thank everybody. If you're watching this, either when it happened, if you watched in the live stream, or if you're just watching this afterwards, if this does end up getting uploaded to YouTube, thank you so much for watching this. It means so much to me. This video went down without a hitch, and I could not be happier that you guys sat around and wanted to listen to me talk about this stuff for an hour or 2 hours in the case of you guys who stuck around, who here and there stuck around for the post show. So I'll end this the same way I ended the video, as a wise and very funny man once said. Hey, I'm just happy to be here. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon.